Hello, fight fans, and welcome to your last review of Cage Warriors Academy of the year. Here to review Cage Warriors Academy Southeast 37, which has just gone down at the Charter Hall in Colchester. The last of 4 events of the year. Really, really good event. Lots to talk about this evening. I'm Mark Heath. I'm the play-by-play commentator. And I'm very happy to say I'm joined by the promoter, all-round legend Jack Mason, and Katie Hunter from MMA UK, who was doing the behind-the-scenes interviews post-fight on the night. And before we get to all the fights, 25 fights on the card, some really, really good fights, good performances, 4 titles on the line. I guess we better start with you, Jack, as the promoter. A very stressful experience, I'm sure, putting on these sort of events. This one, I think, was probably a little bit more stressful. Obviously, there was a potential issue with the main event falling apart and all that kind of stuff. So how do you reflect on that now? The event is in the books. It's all done. There were new fight kits as well, which looked tremendous.
Yeah.
Have you needed to lie down in a darkened room for a few days afterwards?
So straight back to work. Straight back to work on the Sunday actually.
Yeah.
No, it was as always eventful. You know, especially with the lead up. It's all it's actually part of why I enjoy doing it as well. Funny enough, but there's lots of ups and downs when you put these events on. Things always go wrong. I do enjoy the firefighting, but it is stressful. Quite a few things happened. We had a few changes to opponents in the last week. 2 guys, which I'm super apologetic about, had their opponents pull out, and we were unable to replace them. So Aston Smith, who was a heavyweight fighter, he was due to fight. He wasn't able to fight, and then Damien Zoric as well from GB Top Team. He was due to make his welterweight amateur debut, and again his opponent pulled out. He actually didn't arrive to the weigh-in, and then we didn't hear from him since. And yeah, those guys were left without fights. But the main event also fell through due to sickness on weigh-in day. But we held it together. The team pulled it together, and we put on an absolute cracker of a show to end the year. I say it every time, but this time was especially special. The talent on display was unbelievable. The fights were just super high level. These amateurs are, otherworldly now. They're so good. We can talk about a lot of them later, but that was honestly it was a real treat as a fight fan to be able to see these fights, and really looking forward to the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry, Carol.
No, I was going to say about the fight kit. This was the first time, so we've got a partnership now with Phantom Athletics, and this was the first event we put the new fight kit and new fight gloves on display. And it was, this is a game changer to the scene. It looks so professional. The kit is unbelievable. Each fighter gets, they're amateur fighters, but they get the kit provided to them now. The shorts, they can choose the colours, the style, all that type of stuff. And the fight gloves, these Phantom Athletic fight gloves, they're unbelievable. They're definitely, obviously, the best gloves we've had. Super professional, and we're very proud to be partnered with them. And 2025 is going to be a big year. We're going to see full fight uniforms for the fighters, and these new gloves on display.
Yeah, it's going to be tremendous. It did look really good in the cage, absolutely. It had a real good pacing as well, Phil, to this for me. Sitting case, obviously, calling the fights. The event in October, obviously, a lot of good fights, but we had a lot of decisions, whereas this one felt like a good mix of some really good competitive fights going to decision, but also some really good competitive fights ending by knockout or submission. It's a nice blend of finishes and decisions, which I think is always good for the pace of a fight card. Katie, other than Jack, you were probably the most busy person there, because you were trying to watch fights, and then you're also trying to do interviews with fighters as they come through. And if you've never been to a Cage Warriors Academy show, there's not a lot of time between fights. I mean, literally, they walk out the cage and then the next fight comes in. It runs like clockwork. So you've hardly got any time at all to sort yourself out. How was it for you?
No, it was another great show. And actually, Jack, I think sometimes I feel sorry for the main event following Mason Kinsella. I think he definitely deserved his main event
Mm.
status. And,
Yeah,
I don't think anyone missed out on anything there. It was sorry to the opponent who didn't get to fight in the main event, but I do think, when he has Sweet Caroline come on and feels like everybody in the crowd is there for him, I thought that was a great way to end the show.
yeah.
Yeah,
He's like Mason's like super popular and talented as well. So it's yeah, as you say, he was a great main event, and his crowd really, really showed some support and brings some big atmosphere to the show. So it's amazing to have him on.
I think that's a good place to start then, isn't it? The main event. There are 4 title fights on the on the card, and we can run through all of those now. And as you say, Mason Kinsella was the main event for the first time, defending his European amateur featherweight title for the first time against Jamal Azuzi, an experienced opponent in his 10th fight from ASD Ligurio Academy. Mason, when you look at a potential star of the future, you'd go really talented, obviously, tick. Got a big following, tick. Got a kind of iconic walkout atmospheric tune, tick. And every time I see him, I'm more and more impressed with him. And this one, he won the fight, second round TKO. He had a Azuzi in a rear naked choke. He managed to get out of it. He did really well, actually, Azuzi. I thought it was a really good, tough challenge for Kinsella. And then Mason, rather than getting kind of annoyed with himself or flustered, just calmly worked through it and ended up getting the TKO by ground and pound. Now, Jack, obviously, he's fights out of BKK. You're a head coach there. What did you make of Mason's performance?
I thought, I thought it was a great match. Jamal really came out. He really trained hard. He made some big improvements going into the fight. His striking was dangerous, and he had some great skills on the ground. Had a very tight choke to start with as well. Mason took him down, but he managed to sync up the choke, and Mason had to work hard to keep safe, and eventually work out of it. But Jamal was really came to try and take that title, and it worked out for a really brilliant match. So Mason obviously shone through in the end, but he had to fight through some adversity, which is what I want to see as these fighters develop, and see them being able to sort of work through that adversity. So very good performance for Mason. Still got some things to work on. I think he wasn't happy with himself, putting himself in some of the situations, and did feel like Jamal was very dangerous in the striking and could have done better there also. So but that's good. That's great to hear as well. When you got a fighter that's pissed, just one big, pissed off with their performance. It's great to see. That's what's going to make these guys better.
Absolutely, and Mason improved to 7-0 with that victory. So he's still undefeated, still looking very good indeed. And I've always been super impressed with Mason because he's so well rounded, Katie, which isn't always the case, obviously, with guys starting out in their career. He clearly has the grappling background, but he's also a really good, educated striker. I remember seeing him back in April when we were wearing greys, weren't we, at the Civic Hall in Greys in April, fighting an opponent. And I was super impressed then because he had him hurt and the opponent was backing up. And rather than literally just headhunting, which you see all the time, Mason started going to the body. And I thought that was so clever for a guy, then what was that, 3 fights ago? So still quite young in his career. What do you like about Mason, Kate, and what did you make of the performance?
Well, the only thing I'd add to your list is work ethic as well. He seems like a really good student of the game, and he's always looking to improve. Like you said, he's well rounded, and he's like that because he wants to excel in all areas. And one thing I saw this time around as well backstage was the sportsmanship between him and Jamal. Like, it was really good to see. And they were just having a chat, and he was asking how tight the Von Flu choke was, and Jamal was saying it was on, and he was asking how Mason had managed to trap his hand so he couldn't get it out when he had the submission on. So and Mason was also saying, how many fights have you really had, because Tapology says you're 6-4 or whatever it is, and he said Yeah, I've had about 15 fights,
Oh
so
wow.
he's got some serious experience. And to your point, Jack, I think it's good for Mason to test himself. And we talked about what's next for him, and he said, "Oh, I don't know if that's the right fight to end my amateur career on. I think like I need an even bigger test." So again, I just really like to hear that from people, like that he really wants to have that adversity in his amateur career, so that, you know, when he gets to the pro ranks, he's really well tested. So I think all of that is what makes him such a great fighter, to be honest.
Well, a question for you then, Jack. Clearly, he's 7-0 now. He's defended his title for the first time. We know, in terms of unifying that featherweight belt, you told us on the last show that he's really good friends with the champion Jacob Gifford, and that's unlikely to happen. So that we're not going to get that champ versus champ fight potentially. How far away do you think Mason is from turning over and being one of these next kind of guys that we see go from this show and sign for Cage Warriors and go on to be a superstar?
I'd agree with Mason. I think he needs some more work. I think he needs to develop it. He's a very good striker, but he needs to develop his striking and fight a few more different styles, just to really understand himself in there. He's got plenty of time. Very young. There's no rush.
No rush.
He's going to be a champion, I'm sure.
Absolutely. As I say, one of those future stars that we send to the kind of the higher ranks. And if you've never been to a Mason Kinsella fight night, Katie's 100% right. If ever there was a fighter born to be in a main event, it would be him with his backing. It feels like a proper carnival sort of atmosphere, doesn't it? Literally everyone's on their feet singing along as he comes out. It's got everything you want.
About his shorts as well.
Well, of course, yeah. I mean,
he had a problem with his
shorts.
There was a wardrobe malfunction, wasn't there?
Well, he came in, I don't know why he needs to talk to about this, but the fights he got his sponsors printed on were like a pair of football shorts. They had pockets in, and clearly they got checked before he was about to go out. We should maybe check these backstage. Actually, that's something to add to the list of improvements. But he had to wear Christian Young shorts instead.
Who was still in medicals. One of the Combat Institute guys ran in and just pulled him off him.
He literally, Christian Young came out of the co-main event, just defended his title, dropped, saw the issue backstage, gave him, and took his shorts off and gave it to Mason, and that was it.
Superb.
Yeah.
Shades of
Thanks, Christian, for that, keeping the show running.
Yeah. Shades of Derek Lewis in a different sort of way, taking his shorts off in the octagon. So, I mean, obviously, that's a good segue into the co-main, which is Christian Young defending his flyweight title for the first time. And he duly did so. Unanimous decision win over Rajivan Sundaram. And for Christian, he's been super, super active this year. This was his fourth fight. He's fought on every show this year. He's obviously come back from a really bad injury, which hopefully now we can move away from talking about, because I feel like every time I mention Christian Young, I have to mention that he horribly snapped his leg and was at one point didn't know if he was going to be able to fight again. He's done that. He's got back in the win column. He's won the flyweight title. He's tried to win the bantamweight title and came up just short. And then he's defended his flyweight title for the first time. And again, I thought this was an impressive kind of mature performance from Christian Jack, who clearly is an extremely good grappler. That's his base. But he is getting better and better in the striking. And in some Sundaram, again, he was asked some questions in this fight. Yeah.
He's, Christian's really, he makes a huge improvements over the last couple of years. From his sort of amateur debut. He's just got better and better. And James Webb's obviously his mentor, and James is excellent at that. He's developed some really great young fighters, and Christian really takes it seriously. He takes it seriously. He lives in the gym, and you can see, his last fight, he wants to test himself in his amateur career, which is what you can see. He wants to develop, and he fought the last event for upper weight to just to test himself and prove something to himself. And this fight, come out, point to prove, look great, and gets another tough opponent, and he's had a really great amateur career. He's really tested himself in various ways, and I think now, from speaking to James, I think his plan is to go pro in 2025. So
okay,
we're going to help him do that. I think on the next show we're going to get him someone, and yeah, embark on his pro career.
So Christian moved to 6-3 with this win. What did you make of him, Kate? Obviously, you interviewed him afterwards. He's a bloody nice bloke as well, Christian. Oz, as they all call him. What did you make of his performance?
I thought it was great, and I thought it was really mature as well, because he had a lot of those submissions or submission attempts looked to be quite tightly on. He could have held on to him and burnt himself out, and he really, really, really wanted that finish, but in the end it was just a great performance from him. He's another one who brings a crowd. I felt like the card kind of built throughout the night, and those two fights were a really good way to end it. But yeah, I am always impressed with him. More, I think, his mentality than anything else. Like, what he does in the cage is obviously phenomenal, but you mentioned the injury. Coming back from that, he was told he might not fight again, but he never believed that for a second. He always knew he was getting back in there, and he was going to get back to following his dreams. And I don't think anything will stand in his way, because mentally he just is so switched on. And I love people that put themselves out there and dare to be great. Like, I can never remember anybody's fight record. I can never remember how many losses people have had. But what I remember is the times they've stepped up and taken like a really dangerous fight, or an exciting fight, or a fight against a bogeyman. Like, those are the things that I think you'll be remembered for. And those are the things that I think you should be testing yourself with in your amateur career. So, yeah, I was very impressed with him again.
It was an extraordinary moment in this fight, as you say, Katie. Christian had the choke locked in and was literally lifting Rajavan off his feet.
Off his feet, yeah.
He was kind of hanging it like it was John Jones Machida sort of territory, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then Rajavan escaped essentially by launching himself off the cage with both feet. And I thought at first, when he landed, it looked like he'd knocked himself out, like a DDT style professional wrestling scenario. Great toughness, obviously, because that was a bad spot for him. But Christian moves on, defends his belt. And speaking of defending belts, Carl Mullins. Wow. When we talk about fighters of the year later on, he's definitely going to be one we're going to talk about, because again, he defended his light heavyweight title, his third defense of his light heavyweight title. And having been taking the distance for the first time last night, this time it was back to usual normal business. He won by second round stoppage against Leighton Clark, an opponent who brought a big crowd with him from Sunderland. He was unbeaten as well, 3-0, very confident. And I thought he looked really good in the first round, Leighton Clark. It was a completely different fight for Carl, who clearly everyone knows is this horrifying power puncher. And then last fight, he fought an opponent who really just came to survive. And he had to be kind of clever and not take too many risks because the guy had a big right hand. And this fight, it was complete opposite, because the opponent came to literally try and take his head off from the first moment, Leighton Clark. I thought he looked really good. But Carl weathered the storm. And as we've seen in most of his fights, he can be vulnerable, particularly to leg kicks, because he's so heavy on that lead leg. He's such a massive guy, and his thighs are like tree trunks. But again, he showed composure, and he came back and he just basically overwhelmed Leighton in the second round. And Leighton was turning his back. You could see he just wanted to get out of there with Mullins coming like he does with those huge punches. So what did you make of this one, Jack? Carl Mullins, 5-0, third defense of his light heavyweight title now.
He's a scary man.
He really is.
Yeah. So he just has that, that massive equalizer. Like, it's not even his, not even his backhand. It's his jab. Like, if he does jab on you're like turn into Bambi, and it's like he's a monster. He's still, he's still young in his career. He's still got a lot to work. He would say himself, he's got a lot to work on. But once he gets he's already knocking these guys out, right? But once he starts to get feet in the right place, and all that type of the extra things that he needs to work on. He's going to be a scary, scary man, and he's going to be continuing to stop people, stop people as he improves. Leighton Clark, immediately after the fight, the last event, I got a message from Leighton Clark's team saying they want the fight. So they clearly thought they were gonna win, and they, obviously they trained very hard. They came in with a really good game plan, as you say. Like Leighton had some real success early, especially with the leg kicks, and Carl had to weather that, compose himself, get his jab going, and then once he started landing that jab, then Leighton's face started to change. Wasn't liking the shots, and eventually Carl sort of landed much bigger, and put Leighton away. But a scary guy. Very excited to watch, and can't wait to see the improvements and him next time out.
Absolutely, and he's someone that people are always going to want to watch because he has this power, and he carries it as well. So he's never out of a fight. But it's also, I don't want to kind of pigeonhole him just as this huge puncher, and that's all he does, because it's not Katie. As I say, we've seen him really have to think in his last fight, where he's facing a guy who was largely covering up and just looking to counter with a big right hand, and it would have been easy for Carl to get frustrated and just get caught with something silly. And then this fight, he comes out and he's facing a guy completely the opposite, who starts throwing head kicks at him in within the first minute. Really good head kicks. So he is becoming more than just this monstrous puncher. I mean, as I say, he's 5-0, and he won the title in his second fight. So he's still very young in his career, and he has that feel to me that he's learning, he's improving, he's facing different sort of opposition, and showing that he can carry that power as well whenever he needs it.
I asked him if the cage time was good for him in the last fight, and if he, was pleased he got that, and he was like, absolutely not. I want to get them out of there as soon as possible. He's absolutely hilarious to interview, and I think, if he carries on working on his game, he could go a long way, because he is the full package. If you can knock people out like that, people are going to want to watch you fight, and then once they hear him, they're just going to love him and want more and more and more. So I just think, he could, if he wants to take it further, I think he's got all the attributes to do it. And I just wanted to give a shout out as well to his little boy who's in hospital, and that's where he was going after the fight, was to go and visit his son. So props to him as well for being able to get in the cage and have a fight with all that going on in his personal life. But I just, he's another one that I just love speaking to. He has me in stitches.
Yeah, he's a really good prospect, fighting out of Force MMA. Give them a shout out as well. And then the final title fight on this card was in our sport, and indeed combat sports, the classic champ v champ fight, which always gets the juices flowing. And on paper, this looked like an absolutely classic fight between Dacre Bradley, the defending featherweight champion, who's just beaten Christian Young last time out, and he was defending against Sam Hadley, who's a gym mate of Christian Young at the Combat Institute. Who was the European featherweight champion, so unifying the belts in this fight. And Sam comes out on top, unanimous decision win. He's only had 3. He only made his debut in April. He finishes the year with 2 belts, unified bantamweight champion. And I'm so impressed with Sam Hadley, Jack, at the Combat Institute, because he's got this ridiculous composure about him. Clearly, he has a grappling background. His striking looks better and better every time I see him. But he's also got this ability to adapt on the fly or when he needs to. We saw last time out when he fought a much more experienced guy. The first round did not go well for him. And he managed to make adjustments and listen to his coaches and find a way to win. And again here, against a more experienced opponent in Dacre, he looked really good, I thought.
He's probably one of the most exciting prospects, amateur prospects in the UK, I think, at the moment.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable. He's only, as I say, he's only been fighting a year. Speaking to his coach, James Webb, he didn't even ever want to fight. He just wanted to do it like one time just to say he'd done it. And then the last fight he fought Yazin, who is very good, our former champ. vastly more experienced than Sam. And Sam, as you say, Sam came up top this time against another, very good fighter in Dacre Bradley. Just, again, came out top, and he just finds a way to win. He's clearly an excellent grappler, but he's got great hands as well, and he's very composed in the fight. And yeah, looks like a natural, very talented, supernatural, super composed. And as I say, it's going to be very hard to beat.
That's a great way of describing it, actually. He is clearly, he must be, given he's only had 3 fights, a natural. One of these people you find in sports who come along and they can just do it. So what did you make of Sam Katie?
I don't think I've ever been so impressed with somebody's first 3 fights. When we first saw him in April, I thought that was an absolutely phenomenal debut. When he was fighting last time out for the European belt, I was thinking, crikey, on paper, this guy has so much more experience than him. And I've seen this guy fight many times, and I know he's good.
Yeah.
But James Webb wouldn't let his fighter in there unless he thought that he had ways to beat him. And he did look phenomenal in his first fight. And then he goes and wins that. And then he goes and wins this one against Dacre, who I think is an incredible fighter. And this was one of the fights on the card that I was most excited about. This is the kind of high level guys fighting each other that really make me excited. And for him to come out on top there again, I just think he's the real deal. And I don't think he really knows I think he's kind of surprised himself, because when I'm asking him what's next for him, he's like, I've got a family, I think he's got 3 kids. He's like, every time he's in camp, he's obviously, spending a lot of time away from them. And I think he's torn between, I didn't realize I was going to be this good. I can't really throw it away now. And I've got this family that every time I'm training, I'm kind of, neglecting them. So it would be interesting to see what he does. But if he only takes it so far, I think there'll be a lot of other fighters who would be desperate for his natural ability, because he's just got he's got it. Whatever it is, he's got it.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, Mark. He reads fights while they're happening, and he's got that ability to adapt in there. He's got like a natural fight IQ. It's not just the physical skill sets, it's all the stuff that I think is really difficult to teach from just training hard. I'm really, really excited about him, and I hope he does push it for just to test himself and see how far he can go.
Yeah,
100%. I said to him afterwards, I said, mate, you're not meant to be. It's not meant to be doing this. Not 3 fights in, you've already got 2 belts. That's not how it normally happens. So we'll see where he goes next year. But certainly, again, spoiler alert: when we come to the end of the show and talking about fighters of the year, he's also going to be on my list. So certainly a fantastic year for Sam Hadley and that Combat Institute gym. Let's talk about some more BKK fighters, Jack. There are a bunch of them out on this card. Ben Edwards returning after his first defeat. He lost his title last time out. Clarence Dager on this fight, welterweight fight. Ben gets his hands raised again. Another really good opponent. Always tough to bounce back after that first defeat. How did you think he did?
Well, I think he did incredibly well. He Cloran is a very, very good fighter from a very good team. Trains at Elevate MMA and GB top team. And Ben was questioning himself going into this fight. That he just came off a loss. It was a very closely contested decision against another very good fighter. So I still think he had nothing to be ashamed of there. But he's a perfectionist. He had a lot. He had a lot to prove to himself, I think, going into this fight. And I know how hard he worked in training. He worked incredibly hard. Was meticulous in everything. And this time he came in more determined than I've ever seen him. And he listened to everything in the corner. Did his game plan to a T. Cloric is an excellent striker, and I don't think he landed a shot on Ben. Ben shut him down straight away, which is what the plan was. And yeah, I'm very impressed with Ben. There's takes some proper mental fortitude to come through after a big loss and put in a performance like that against a great opponent. So yeah, another future star.
Before we get on to Danny Parker, who obviously also had a good one on the show from BK, I want to highlight Ethan Barry as well, because although he lost, the guy he was fighting, Stephen Marie, was terrifying. Like, he had the meanest looking fight face I've ever seen in my life. Like, he had the 1,000-yard stare. He came out with bad intentions. Clearly a very powerful guy.
Yeah.
And Ethan was in some rough spots, but he weathered it, kept on going, and he almost got a Hail Mary submission at the end as well, Jackie. I thought, again, that's tremendous heart and courage and everything you want to see, and everything that makes this sport so great, really.
We knew going into that how dangerous Stephen was.
Yeah, that was a horrible matchup, Jack.
So yeah, I know.
What did he do you?
Ethan's one of these guys that wants to prove himself all the time.
Yeah.
And we knew if we get past the sort of the first minute, Ethan could start taking over. And Stephen, obviously, he's a specimen. He's very strong, and he did. He made things difficult for Ethan in the fight. Ethan continued to work. Clearly a couple of things he can work on there, but as you say, he kept fighting, and he was. If that fight had gone on longer, I think he would have got the finish eventually. But it was I was very impressed with him. He's got real heart, and for me, and I said it to him afterwards, I just wanted to see him lift a few more weights and just get a bit stronger, put a bit more muscle in his frame, and he can be a real talent, really could. Just needs to catch up physically, I think, with some of these guys, because he is at a disadvantage in that regard. So we're gonna work on it, but I think he's could be a real special talent.
Well, he's certainly got the long levers, hasn't he? In terms of striking, and in fact, I'm led to believe he actually enjoys the grappling side of things more, with those long legs and threatening submissions and stuff. Which as I say, almost won the fight doing that here.
Yeah, and I mean, you'll notice obviously Stephen came out like big in the striking in the first minute. After that point, when it sort of came into the open and they started striking, and Ethan was landing that right hand that he throws. Stephen didn't want any of it. He went to the grappling straight away, and did throughout the rest of the fight because of that reason. And again, I think he can do well. But Stephen, I'm excited to see him fight. Who's going to fight next? He's a monster, and very very impressive as well. I think he's 4-0 now. So
yeah. 4-0, very, very talented guy, as you say, powerful, got the look as well. As I say, like Ethan had personally offended him before the start of every round. He was giving him that stare.
There's a photo that Brett King took.
Oh, with the mist behind him, yeah.
It's a great photo.
It is a great photo. Right then, let's talk about Danny Parker, Katie, because he got another, I thought, really good performance on this show. He got a unanimous decision win over James Howlett from GB Top Teams, obviously a very good gym. James was 5-2-1 before the fight. Danny 2-3, so evens his record at 3-3. And me and Nick on commentary were really impressed again. Clearly, Danny is a brilliant striker, and people, unless they're mad, don't really want to stand with him. So most people come in and try and grapple him and take him down. But in this fight, I thought his defensive wrestling and counter grappling, all that kind of stuff, I thought looked loads better than we've seen it before. And I know that's something he's been working on.
Yeah,
as he told me. But
then going for takedowns of his own as well.
Yeah.
I thought he looked really, really well rounded this time out. I was really, really impressed with that, especially against someone from GB Top Team. Those guys are like so wrestling focused, and his takedown defense, and then also when he did get taken down, his ability to bounce back up. I can't imagine how many hours he's spent drilling that in the gym to get it to that level in a fight. But yeah, absolutely blown. Like you say, his striking's always impressive, but that side of his game this time, I just thought he, really, really impressed me.
Is that sometimes, as a coach, Jack, is that sometimes difficult when you've got a guy who is so good at one thing, and striking is a fun thing to do, let's be honest. And yet he has to then not do that. He has to put himself in uncomfortable positions and really concentrate on improving that kind of grappling aspect of his game. I guess sometimes people who are used to just being really good at one thing, it's a bit of a mental challenge to have to then go and do stuff they're not so good at in the gym.
I think he, I mean, absolutely. I think he, clearly he's worked incredibly hard with his takedown defense and his wrestling and his jiu-jitsu. He's done a great job in that regard, and he is, just honestly like a now the way the hard work he's put in is now a frightening prospect. He fought a very good guy in James Howlett, who's also very, he is very wrestling focused, and that's one of the reasons why we wanted to make this matchup, because unless Danny improves in that area, he's not going to get where he wants to get to in the sport. And you could see the proofs in the pudding, the amount of work he's put in, and the way he was able to defend against a really good wrestler there was excellent. I mean, he got his takedowns, and there was some moments in the fight where, because he's much more confident in his takedown defense and wrestling, he was able to let his hands go. And I think there was a moment in sort of the third round where he really let his hands go, and you could see, it was almost a fight-ending moment. But very impressed with his performance and very excited to see where he goes to next.
I think you've got actually that picture of Stephen Marie up as your background now, which is just
actually someone suggested Danny Parker versus Stephen Marie.
Oh, good Lord!
And I'm thinking that would be it would be a very exciting striking matchup, I think.
That would be incredible. Let's make that happen next year, please.
Yeah.
There were also, Katie, unusually, 3 ninja chokes on this card, which is not something you see all the time. And one of them, I'm going to say, was probably submission of the night. I know we haven't officially announced the fight awards, but George Hode got a win by 3rd round ninja choke against Ethan Lewis from BKK, who we've seen quite a few times on these shows. And I thought that was a really impressive win from George. Did you? I'm hoping you've seen it, because I'm not entirely sure whether or not you have when you were backstage. But I would say that was my submission of the night. I don't know if you'd agree with that or not.
Yeah, I do agree with you, but I would also say I felt for Ethan so bad, because he was winning seemed like every second of that fight until he got caught. So that will probably be a really bitter pill for him to swallow. But yeah, what a finish! It would, that would have been my sub of the night as well.
How was Ethan after the fight, Jack? Because clearly he was in the cage afterwards. He was pretty disconsolate, as you would be, I guess.
Yeah, he's gutted and very eager to get back in there and sort of right some wrongs. But he put a ton of work into that training camp. I thought he looked very good. He actually made some, because George Hode came out, his striking was exceptional in the first round, and it was very back and forth, and Ethan had to make some adjustments in going into the second, which he did, and actually took away George's striking in that moment, and he took the second round clearly. Going into the third round, he did seem very confident. I think Ethan was feeling himself a little bit and didn't recognise the danger and George synced up very tight, and once he synced it up, it was game over. He put Ethan to sleep very quickly, and I mean both guys they could be be very good in the future. It was a really high level matchup, and congrats to George. Very impressive finish. I think it's submission of the night, 100%. And to take victory from the jaws of defeat was just, that just makes the victory even more impressive as well. So props to George.
Yeah, just to dot the I's and cross the T's. Ethan's 4-4 now, and George moves to 4-2. Is there anything else you want to highlight from a BKK point of view, Jack? Obviously, you had a few more fighters on this card as well. Is there anyone you want to shout out or talk about?
We had loads of guys on. I think Darnell Jackson was super impressive against a very, very good French opponent. And as Darnell said multiple times after the fight, he's not just a striker anymore. And again, that was another ninja trade as well.
Yeah,
he looked very good, very impressed. Very impressive him, and want to see him. Want to see what he can do next year. Steve McMorris again. That was bittersweet for me because obviously AJ Coffey, one of my guys, they both went into the fight having both had 3 amateur fights, and they both were yet to get a victory. I thought it was a great fight to make for that reason, and Steve came out on top, and he looked very impressive. He looked very composed in there. But his previous fights, he comes out all guns blazing. This time he took his time in there, and it paid off. And very happy. I know all his team are super happy for him. Lots of people in the crowd are very happy for him, and I'm happy for him too. You see the hard work he's put in. He's very, the victory is well deserved. AJ will be back, but and then I'd say my other highlight on the card. There were lots of impressive fighters on the card, but I think probably the best knockout, and for me, KO of the night was Thomas Karumi against Vettel Gustafsson. He's a very, very good fighter from Norway. His striking on display was impressive, and when he got going was very impressive. Someone to watch out for in the future.
Yeah, that's Thomas Karumi, Resilience MMA, first round TKO. Another good knockout, I would say, was Lilian Pavelchay, Essex MMA, one of Alan Patman's guys who got his second straight first round stoppage. He's got a lot of power.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to highlight fight wise, Katie? I know it's probably difficult for you because you were doing about 13 jobs on the night. But anyone else you want to shout out?
You covered all of mine. Yeah, that was everyone. With Steve, I just wanted to say he said that he's been working with like a mental coach, which I think when we talk about these guys acting like they're professionals when they're amateurs, I mean, to have a mind coach when you're 3 fights into your amateur career, clearly, it made an impact. But like these guys are literally leaving no stone unturned.
Right.
And for both of those guys to get back in there when you've lost 3 fights and to still want to carry on, I think that's amazing. I really do. And there's absolutely no reason why that they can't go on to have positive records either, because every fight is so 50-50. Being 0-3 doesn't mean that you're a shit fighter. It literally means that you've tested yourself and you could come up 1% short on the night. So yeah, these guys that have got a negative record, it means they're testing themselves against the best. It means nothing more than that in my eyes.
Yeah, I think you put it really well before, Jack, which kind of sums up, I think, the whole attitude of everyone who fights in this card. You said before, if you go into a fight knowing you're going to win, it's not a fight.
It's not a fight,
And the beauty of this card and these events are always, you can't look at any single fight and go, well, I know he's going to win, or I know she's going to win. Records, regardless.
And when you do, you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty much wrong all the time. That's my wife. But the only other fight I wanted to mention, just because I thought it was probably a contender for fight of the night, maybe up there with Carl and Leighton Clark, was Massimo Riva and Naimi Nzalo, which was a lightweight fight, which was tremendous back and forth stuff. And both guys, I think it was the 3rd round, Namian won by unanimous decision. It was literally like classic rock'em sock'em robot. Someone gets rocked back, and there was a point where they were both kind of just stood looking at each other with their hands down because they were so exhausted. It was classic. I really enjoyed it. A really good fight.
Yeah, I think it was a brilliant fight as well.
Yeah. Shall we move on then? Let's draw a line under that, and let's look at the year as a whole, because we've had 4 Cage Warriors Academy cards this year. We started the year in Grays, of all places, at the Civic Hall, and then came back to the spiritual home, the Charter Hall in Colchester, for the last 3. And I thought it might be good to look back at potential fighters of the year as well, because we have on this show clearly a lot of talent has come through this cage on the way to other places. And my first suggestion, I'll throw some names at you, and you can bat them back or agree, or throw some other names in. Cameron Stewart, who we thought fight at the start of the year in April. He won 2 belts. He became a champ this year. He got a very impressive win over Cadre Denis, I think that was back in April. And then he went on and won a belt at a different weight as well. And then, of course, went and signed for Cage Warriors. Now, we've seen a lot, clearly, of people coming through this show and signing for Cage Warriors. So Cameron's done it. Human highlight reel, Jimmy Quinn, who's knocking everyone out in spectacular fashion. He's come through this show. Tommy Brunning, Tariq Pell, all kind of recent graduates from this show onto Cage Warriors. But I thought Cameron Stewart deserves a mention among those fighters of the year. I've also got Mason Kinsella, 3-0. I've got the stats. I've written them down. I might as well mention. So he was 3-0 this year. Won a title, defended it. Sam Hadley, we've already mentioned, hadn't even fought before April. He's 3-0. He's now got 2 titles to hang on the Christmas tree. Christian Young, fought on every show this year, 3-1. Won the flyweight championship, defended it. Came up just short in the bantamweight division, challenging for that belt. Carl Mullins, 3-0. 3 defenses of his light heavyweight belt. I also want to shout out Jacob Gifford from GB Top Team. He's 2-0 and won and defended the featherweight title. He's a really good prospect. And then the other one I'm going to mention, he only fought once on the card, but I thought he was superb. And in terms of future stars, just remember this name, Ulay Tandir, who we saw fight, I think it was in July, who has the whole package. He fought Nathan Lambert, who was 9-3. Ulay is now 25-3 as an amateur middleweight. Wears sunglasses everywhere, got the whole vibe about him. So I thought he deserves a mention as well, because I just think he's someone we're probably going to see further down the line.
I think we're going to see that guy as a mega star, I think, in the future.
Absolutely.
In France. Funny enough, on the last event, I was asked to match him, but they asked us too late. I would have had him back in a flash, but I thought he was going to go to. I thought he was going pro straight away. That's what I was told. And I know that Cage Warriors were trying to sign him because Ian Dean came to that event, and he was super impressed with him. And, signed him straight away. I'm sure he's going to go pro in 2025. Yeah, very, very impressive guy.
Well, 25-3 as an amateur is a quite frankly ridiculous record for anyone. Anyone you want to highlight off that list there that I've just reeled off, Katie, or anyone else you want to throw into the mix as deserving of potential mentioning in Fighter of the Year stakes?
I think they're all very deserving nominees. My vote would go to Sam Hadley. I've never been more impressed with somebody's first 3 fights, and I think the caliber of fighter that he's beaten as well just makes that all the more incredible.
I think so too. I think the strength of competition that he fought in his first 3 fights is astounding. How good he looks. So for me, I think it's very good. He's kind of a shoo-in, I think.
Okay. Well, he's won 2 belts. He gets a 3rd belt now then, or a trophy at least, to go on top of that as Fighter of the Year potentially from us. Should we talk about next year, Jack? Because there's 3 shows coming up next year. Just get these dates in your diary. April the 12th, July the 12th, November the 22nd. All in Colchester. I've actually had to move a holiday for the November 22nd one, which is I made a mistake there by booking that. Anyway, that's been sorted, so I don't want to miss the shows. First of all, there's only 3 shows next year, and I'm led to believe that that's because we're going to concentrate on kind of making it even more of a full package next year, Jack. And what can people expect? We've talked about the fight kits which is like an extra level of, I think, really good professional looking stuff, and a visual in the cage as well. What else can we expect from Cage Warriors Academy in 2020?
I think the reason why we are doing three events is that our team are super busy, and it was super stressful trying to pull together an event every quarter. The time between the October event and December event was only 6 to 8 weeks. Very difficult to pull that together, and 3 events is much more comfortable for us. It means we can make sure every single show is very high quality, and give these young athletes the best experience, and allow them to develop and get ready to go on and have a really successful career. So I'm very excited. We've already got some huge plans for April in terms of sort of increasing the production value, making it a much more spectacular event for the fans. The partnership with Phantom Athletics, the gloves, and the fight uniform, that's a game changer. Obviously, for these fighters to have that is, very happy to be able to provide that, which is something no other sort of amateur show is doing. I'm very excited to see what we can do next year. I know all the team are super excited as well, and we can't wait to April now.
So let's wet our whistles and maybe look at potential fights for next year then, Jack, without putting on your spot. You've already mentioned Stephen Marie, Danny Parker, which I think that has to happen now. I know you said it.
Yeah.
The more I think about it, the more I want it to happen. Christian Young potentially turning pro next year. Is there any other kind of fights you're eyeing? I know it's a few months away yet, and we've got Christmas to get through.
I think we're going to be, so Kai Stevens was the guy in the main event that was due to fight for the lightweight title, but his opponent pulled out. I think we're looking to do Joshua Morley versus Kai Stevens.
Oh, that's a good fight.
That would be a great fight. Both they have fought before. It was called a no contest because of an eye poke, and we're gonna hopefully run that one back. There's a little bit of bad blood after that event, and that always makes for a better fight. So would be two great guys from two good gyms. It's going to be an exceptional fight. We'll do that for the lightweight belt. Charlie Falco, I think we're going to see coming back. So there's Macy Barber's boyfriend, out in the States, trains at Alpha Male, has been calling Charlie out for a little while. So I think we're going to do that one. Hopefully you can do that in April as well.
Excellent.
Yeah. So excited for that one, I think.
Sounds good. Kate, is there anything that you look at? You have an incredible encyclopedic knowledge of fights and fighters. Is there anything that you look at and think, oh, I want to see that next year. I want to see that fight. I want to see this fighter.
With Mason, I think with quite a few of these guys, it must be getting hard for you to match them, Jack. But I know you were struggling with Sam Hadley, like after his debut, to match him. So I'm sure there's a lot of fights that you'd want to put on that are tricky to put on. But with Mason, I think I'd like to see him against Alex Andrews, because I know you wanted to see the fight with Jacob Gifford, Mark, but as that one's not going to happen, it would be good. That was such a close fight with Alex. I think that would be a really good test. I don't know what's happening to some of these guys now, if they're turning pro or not, because they've had a fair few amateur fights, but that's one I'd really like to see.
That's a good shout. Excellent shout. Get that on your list, Jack, maybe.
No, it's something that Mason mentioned to me before, so we're gonna put that to the team. I know that Alex wasn't available for this event. It might have been something that we would have done for this one. So great shout, Casey.
Excellent. All right then, we're coming up to an hour, which was a good time for a show. Is there anything else you want to mention, either of you? Just by way of wrapping up the show, Jack, is there anything you want to mention as a promoter around?
It's all the fighters and the fans for making it a brilliant year. We have had we've had 4 great events. Some we've managed to develop some incredible talent. Honestly, the talent in the UK is just on fire at the moment, and it's some real world beaters, coming through. I was speaking to James Webb the other day after the event, and we're really creating a huge hotbed of talent in Essex, and we're looking to see what we can do as a partnership to help grow that as well. So I'm excited for 2025. We'll see what more we can do.
Tremendous, Katie. As a fan, as well as a journalist and someone who's trained and competed and all that kind of stuff. If people have never been to one of these events, can you encapsulate why they should make it in 2025? Because I would say the quality of fights, obviously, the fighters are brilliant, but the event itself is going from strength to strength. The atmosphere, the professionalism of everyone around. It's just an excellent night and an excellent kind of, what's the word, platform for young fighters, and these are the elite that we're seeing coming through from not just the UK but also Europe.
Yeah, I would say go and support your local athletes. Just whatever your preconceptions are about cage fighting, you're wrong. These are real people. These are, 95% of them are very, very lovely people. They are totally different to what you would expect. It's not all massive guys just beating lumps out of each other. Like, these are, it's poetry to me, some of this that you see in the cage, like some of the submissions, some of the footwork and stuff. If you like ballet, you might like this. So just get down, support your local athletes, because this is when they need you. And you can say that you were there when whoever had their first amateur fight, and then they're fighting in the UFC in 5 years or 10 years time. It really, this is the show that will do that, and you will be seeing the best of European amateur talent. And Jack's just named 3 fights that could be pro fights on the next card, so not just amateur talent. I think you're missing out if you don't get yourself down there.
Yeah, to add to that, Katie, for me, this is seeing these young people, putting the hard work in, leaving no stone unturned, showing true character, coming back from defeat to then get incredible victory. It really gives me hope for the young people in the future. If there's a lot of other young people I sort of meet in my work and around, and it really demotivates me, because I just think the world's going in a really bad direction. And then you see these young people showing real character, and it just gives me a lot of hope for the future. And my young son, if there are still people like this out there, then it's going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, the slogan we use on the show is "This is where champions are born," and I think that's the perfect way of describing it. If you come to a show, you'll probably see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fighters who will go on to big things in the sport, and years down the line, like Katie says, you'll be able to say, I remember when I saw so and so fighting Colchester, and I was telling everyone, but before they even heard of him or her, that they were going to be a star. So
we've seen Ian Gary on the event.
Corey McKenna, obviously,
Kavanagh. We've seen loads of the stars that are now in the UFC making big names. They've been on the show.
Absolutely. Make 2025 the year you get to a show if you've not been before. It is. I mean, Katie referred to that as cage fighting. I don't really like calling it cage fighting because it has these negative
but that's what people think it is.
I know, but it's mixed martial arts, isn't it? And to me, and I can say this because I'm a sports editor, it's the greatest sport on earth for me. Mixed martial arts. So if you've never seen it, don't know anything about it, I'd still say get to a show in Colchester and watch these incredible young athletes, because I think you can't fail to be impressed. Anyway, let's wrap the show up. 4 shows this year in the books, 3 shows coming your way next year. April the 12th is the one to look out. First of all, tickets will be available soon, and we've already heard of some of the fights that might be on that card, which is tremendously exciting. From all of us, myself, Katie, and Jack, have a great Christmas, a very happy New Year, and we will see you in Colchester in 2025.